Today, I want to solve an organizational problem that I'm facing here. This table behind me is where I have my 3D printer, as well as some other things that I use on a regular basis. Since I have the 3D printer here, it's nice to have the spools of filament right here as well. But since this is just an open shelf down here, a lot of times these spools just kind of get stacked and it's really kind of disorganized. And we need to do something a little bit better. I'm thinking I want to build some sort of a little shelf that runs horizontally so that I can store these spools of filament where they're upright and nice and organized, easy to access. And then I'll have the bottom of this shelf available for storing a few other things. I got a couple ideas in mind, so let's head out to the shop and we'll get started. Make sure you stick around. I'm Jeff and you're watching Home Built Workshop. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Home Built Workshop. I hope you're doing awesome today. Well, as you already know from the introduction, we're going to do a little bit of an organizational project to help keep these spools of 3D printer filament organized. This is not going to be all that complicated of a project. I think it's going to go pretty fast, really, but by taking the time to do this now, it's going to make a huge difference and improve the efficiency of my 3D printing area. Currently, I've got stuff down below. I've got stuff on another shelf. I just want to get it all together, neatly organized, and stored a little more efficiently. My goal is to store all of these spools upright. And of course, since it's round, you can't really just put it on a flat shelf. It almost have to be angled back or something like that to keep things from rolling off. What I'm thinking is we'll take a couple of these wooden dowel rods, and if these are secured into a piece at the end, which will get attached to the table leg, since this will be a bit of a cradle, the spools won't roll off. I'll be able to reach in, grab the one I need, replace it, and it'll stay right where I put it. I found a piece of elm that I think I can use to get both of my side pieces that'll go in between the table legs. Now this wood is not going to match my table 100% perfect. This is going to be a little bit different color brown. I'm totally okay with that for what this is going to be. But if you wanted to match the materials a little closer, you probably have to spend a little bit of time, maybe with some stains or dyes or something like that, different finishing techniques. I'm going to keep this super simple because I am not at all concerned with the materials matching for this particular project. So that's about enough yapping. Let's get to cutting. I need to first dimension this piece to match the size of the table legs. I'm going to use the bandsaw to rip this piece down to width. The thickness is very close to what I'm going to need already. I'm just going to basically cut a square section out of here. I'll just use this piece as a guide to set my fence. Next, I need to drill a couple of holes for these dowels, but I need to figure out roughly the spacing that I want these to be. I'm just kind of mocking this up and just going to take a couple of measurements and see about how far apart these dowels are. Looks like if I go about 5 inches on center for these holes, I think it's going to work fine. I'm just using a center finding ruler to mark out the locations. Makes it super quick. Once I find the center, I can go 2.5 inches out on either side, and that's where I need to drill. After drilling those holes, I'll use a 1/4 inch roundover bit and just slightly round over the edges. This will help it match the legs of the table just a little bit better. Now really the last thing that I need to think about is how I want to mount this. Now since this is going to be going in between the legs, I guess drilling straight through into the end would be an option, but I don't really want those screws visible from the outside. It doesn't really matter, it doesn't make all that much of a difference, but I want to try to keep this a little bit neater, so once I put this in place, I want to use some pocket screws on the inside to attach this to the legs. That way you won't see any fasteners, and the little recess left from the pocket screws isn't really going to make any difference. It's been a long time since I used this. I got to remember how to use it. The last thing that I want to do to these pieces before I install them is to apply some sort of a finish. Really, I just don't want it to be bare wood, and if I can sort of match the finish on the table that these are going on, that's a plus. Now, I got to looking around the shop and I found this can of amber tinted shellac. I did a little test piece on some of this same wood, and the color is remarkably similar. Not exact, but that's okay. As long as it's sort of similar, I'm totally fine with that. So I'm going to apply this shellac, at least a coat, to these pieces. That way they'll sort of match a little bit better and it won't just be bare wood or something completely different. It's going to be close enough. Stir well before using. Apparently I didn't prepare ahead of time and have brushes on hand. I thought I had some foam brushes or something around here. All I have are these tiny acid brushes. Thankfully, these pieces aren't very big. Well, that took entirely too long, but these things are finished. It's dry. It's time to install these. Note to self, make sure you have brushes on hand if you plan on using a finish that needs brushes. To install this, I'm going to use some clamps to hold this cross piece in place. That way I can slip that bar in there, and we'll just measure to make sure it's where it needs to be. Slip our dowels in carefully. Then we'll basically do the exact same thing on the other side, slipping the dowels in place, which will capture this dowel. It doesn't run all the way through. This dowel's not going to be glued in there, just because I wanted the ends to be nice and clean. We'll make sure it's level. It looks pretty good. Let's do a test fit. Our spools will fit in there perfectly. I'm going to use one of these right angle drill adapters to hold the bit for the pocket hole screws. That'll give me the clearance I need to get in here. Just a little awkward once you have this in the driver, but it'll work. With our filament rack securely screwed into place, now the only thing left to do is to round up all of my filament that I have in several different places and get this thing loaded up. This is going to make a huge difference in the efficiency. Having everything all together is going to be awesome when I need to do some 3D printing. I don't have to dig around because currently I have some here, I have some in a few other locations. Being able to get it all together, it's going to make a huge difference. And it really didn't take all that long to do. But not every project needs to be really in-depth and take you a ton of time. Sometimes, at least for me, I don't know about you, the simple projects that make a huge impact are sometimes more satisfying to complete than some of the larger, more in-depth projects. Not every single project has to be all in-depth. The little ones, quick wins, boost your spirits, and make a huge difference in your productivity. I'm super glad to have this little project done. It's something that's been on my mind for a little while, and I'm really glad that I took the time to get this knocked out. Hope you can knock out some little projects and get some little wins around your shop. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.